Can you hear me, Jan?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make sure. Go ahead.
Well, next slide.
Next slide. There you go.
Oh, how pretty is that? All right. Joe Garcia is going to lead us in our invocation again today. So Joe, go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you to be able to have the opportunity to come before you today and to know that even in the middle of this fear turning into frustration, you continue to bring out the best in so many people. What an incredible program we saw last week of so many coming out and volunteering and giving their time to help those that are less fortunate. We ask that you continue to bless Interfaith and all the other organizations that are taking time in order to be able to bless those that need to be blessed at this special time. And to continue to give wisdom to our leaders, because they are having to deal with these enormous questions as to when to begin to open up the economy, when to open up our cities and our parks, and what to do. California has been blessed. We have such a flat curve, but let us not forget that that is because we have been doing what we're supposed to do. So please give wisdom to all in order to make the right decisions, us to stay faithful and listen, and most of all, bless each one of my fellow Rotarians as we are dedicated to serve. And it's a calling that you have given us. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joe. Next. All right. I'm going to ask somebody else to lead the pledge today. So Jay, I see your smiling face. Would you like to lead the pledge?
Unmute yourself, Jay.
Unmute. You got to unmute. Unmute. There you go. Okay, go ahead.
All of us begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States
of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands,
a
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
justice for all. Thank you. All right. Now, we got an email earlier this week. We learned about the loss of a former Rotarian of ours. And although we haven't been doing a patriotic song, today in Tom's honor, we wanted to go ahead and do his favorite song. And probably the one person in our club who would emulate Tom's voice would be Joe Stanford. I don't know if he's there.
He is not.
Okay. Unfortunately, Joe is not there, but that's okay because we're all going to sing it in Tom's
harmony.
All right. Well, and we have other awesome singers. It's just that the loudest of us all was
No.
Joe Stanford. So anyway, let's go ahead.
It is.
I'm
So
a
you may get a check at the end of the month.
Andy.
For a lot of people.
Yankee
Doodle
Getting any information that you don't already have.
My Uncle Sam, born on the 4th of July. I've got a
Yankee Doodle.
sweet
heart. He's my
Yankee
Doodle.
Yankee Doodle.
Doodle came to London.
Just ride the pony. Yankee Doodle boy.
Hey, nice job. All right.
We should keep our day jobs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
one thing that Tom would always do, Dan, one thing that Tom would always do, he would always want to sing at Acapulco.
Acapulco. Well, we did.
Next, we'll do that on May 5th.
I see Acapulco behind Jam.
Cinco de Mayo.
We actually did sing at Acapulco, so very good job. It's hard to get all of us on the same page when we're on Zoom to sing it together. I don't know how those videos come out where people are doing it.
I know.
I don't know how they do it, but anyway. So the cats here say, welcome to our meeting. All right. Oh, here we go again.
Sorry.
I can hear it. Can you turn it up?
Yes.
Enjoy the program. And won't you come back
Back
To see ya
Yes.
again.
And
All right. Sorry, we got a little late start on
Chicos, not the Rotary.
that. When's COVID going
Go
away?
now away. Relax.
Enjoy
Enjoy
your program
programas.
and hope that
And hope that
someday
someday see you again.
Together now.
All right, here's our calendar. April 28th is the Salton Sea Part 1. Paulette is doing that. May 5th is Part 2. Colleen is bringing us how to spot fake news. And then May 12th, the Salton Sea Part 2. We have openings through June for the rest of the program. So if you guys have an idea, Royce really could use your suggestions. And feel free to do a program for any of us as Rotarians, obviously, to do the program about
yes,
a subject that would be of interest. So
like a book about piano playing without pants.
Perfect.
I don't know. Alex could do a program on all her recipes.
There you go.
She's
Borscht.
quite, yeah, there you go. So anyway,
Does borscht really have beets in it?
Yeah.
How do
uh,
we get, Jan, how do
Yes.
we get in touch with you if we want to do a program?
Just email me, Amy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Email Andy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next slide, Jen.
Yes, please. Okay, here is our member moment. We kind of spoke about it already, but here is Tom receiving an award, and it's a beautiful picture, and it's just a sad time to know that he's no longer with us. Even though he moved away a while ago, it's bittersweet to see such a beautiful picture of such a wonderful man. So if anybody wants to share something about Tom, now would be a nice opportunity.
I feel that he was a really kind and gentle person. And I think our Rotary was really close to his heart.
Yeah.
And I will miss him, but I'm working on a channel to heaven to see if I can get in touch.
Good, good. If you find a way that people can get in touch, Amy, would you just email that to Andy, and then we can let the other members of the club know? 'Cause
Oh, I sure will.
thank you, because I know people have been asking about how to get in touch with his wife.
Well, Donna Newhouser was the president of the Friday noon
Escondido
Rotary
East
Club.
Rotary Club.
And his wife was president of the Rotary Club that meets on Friday noon.
Correct.
Escondido East Rotary Club.
In the Middle East Rotary Club.
Escondido East Rotary Club, and his wife was president there. Stan Call is a friend of mine, and he's the one who let me know that Tom had passed. So somebody at the Rotary East Club is in contact with Donna. I'd be glad to call Stan Call and find out who that is.
Thank you, Nick. That would be wonderful if you could find out, because I know a lot of people have been asking how they can reach her to express condolences.
Jan?
Yes.
Marilyn Lynch here. I have their address.
Oh, great.
So I will email you the address and you can pass it out, whatever you need to do.
Perfect. Thank you, Marilyn. That's
Okay.
wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, I'm so glad we asked about that so that people can pay their respects. All right, I think next slide. Okay, well, do this and then hold on this slide because I want to give Rick a chance to speak. He had something he wanted to mention.
Okay, yeah, Rick will be right after In the Wild.
Oh, perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Andy. I missed that part. All right.
It's all good.
Go ahead. In the Wild.
So
Look
here
who's-
are Rotarians in the Wild providing their pictures to us. Jackie, I don't know if Jay actually knew that Jackie was taking the pictures, but this was actually right after our meeting last week, mentioning that they needed sack lunches down at Interfaith, and Jay stepped up, organized, and did a bunch of sack lunches. It looks like about, what, maybe 20 there?
We did 10, but Rosa did 25.
And Rosa did it too. Why didn't Rosa get any pictures?
She would have had to take us up.
Because you didn't ask.
Oh, okay.
Hasn't taught Lulu how to use a camera.
I did take pictures and post it on Facebook.
Oh,
But not
so
on
I
me,
missed
just
them.
the sandwich.
But
Yes,
thank you
I
all.
took 25.
I'm sure that it really made a big difference to the people at Interfaith. And if we want to do this again, please step out or reach out. And next time Jay won't eat half of the lunches.
Here we go. Thank you, Jay, for doing that. Look at here.
The idea I have is, if any of you wants to do this, I can come and pick them up from your house. So if 10 Rotarians do 10 lunches, we can have 100. They need 150 every day. So we can set up 1 day a week. I can come, as long as you live in Escondido, I will come pick up the bag and take them all to Interfaith.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to send out an email on what day of the week,
okay,
I can spread that out.
Perfect. I will.
All right. And by the way, I do see Keith here now under the name Grandpa.
Yeah.
Hey, Grandpa.
Wild people.
Hi, Keith. Yeah, we'll I don't know if you slipped a slide in for Keith, but if not,
I did.
You did. I did. Good. Perfect. Yep. Okay.
So
all right. So
here we have Justin celebrating his bread versus actual Russian bread. And I think, I don't know, Justin's bread looks like you could drink it. Did you make that in a beer can, Justin?
No, the banana nut bread is in the foreground, and then Alex's two loaves are in the background.
Oh, so the Russian bread is actually the one that looks like a beer can.
Exactly, and then the Ukrainian Pascha bread, or a Greek Orthodox bread, is in the middle.
Nice. I want to try them. I want to try those breads.
They're wonderful.
And frankly,
okay, so when let me know when I can come over and pick up a loaf.
6 months.
So the other thing to note here is that this kind of explains a little bit about Alex, because she's on a completely separate calendar from the rest of us. They celebrated Easter on the 18th instead of when normal people celebrate Easter.
It's not fair.
Come on, people.
All right. Oh, look at this.
Celebrating son's birthday.
How old is he now, Aussie?
27. There's look at the picture. It was
27. I'm sorry.
That's only a third of your age, Aussie.
Exactly.
Oh. Very nice.
Here we have the leaders of Elizabeth Hospice doing amazing work.
Our volunteers made those masks. We're very, very grateful to our volunteers. April is National Volunteer Month, and so we wanted to show how much we appreciate them.
Jan, do you still need more masks?
I don't think we need the cloth masks right now. What we need are gowns and surgical masks, but the cloth ones, I think we're okay.
Okay.
But thank you for asking.
So here's Joe posted about masks being delivered to actually Interfaith. His post was actually, and Joe, if you want to go on about this one, you collected how many masks for Palomar? Oh, I lost him. Okay. Joe Garcia? No? Okay. They collected, I don't remember, it was something like 1,000 masks, and then a portion of those went over to Interfaith to help them out as well, which is really, that's another great thing we're doing for Interfaith.
Yeah, that was one more, that's pretty incredible. I actually just picked it up from the city. The city was the one that did that. I believe it was 3,000 masks actually that were donated overall. And about 1,000 of them went to Interfaith. That's a pretty incredible thing that our city and our club and everybody around is doing. It was really awesome.
Yep.
Very nice work. Thank you for picking them up and distributing them. And finally, we have our Rotarians, walking Rotarians, who don't have a lot of respect for the flag apparently, but they do have respect for 6-foot distancing between themselves.
Great.
Dan, have you changed your shirt, or is that the same shirt you're wearing today? All right, here's Keith Rickenbacher's. Here's Grandpa's.
Okay, Grandpa.
You have other slides or no? No?
That's it.
Just the one slide, sorry.
Oh, okay, no worries. I had a couple of announcements and updates about San Pasquale Academy. I talked to them the other day and they wanted me to pass on a thank you to all of the members that were out there for Rotarians at Work Day that they call Ag Day. So many people showed up. There was a record crop of things planted and fertilized out there, and right now they're not able to sell any of their produce. But they are locked down in quarantine, so they're using all that produce to feed all the kids every day. So they wanted to pass on a thank you to everyone that was out there and helped that day. And also they are on quarantine lockdown now. The campus is closed and all of the kids have to stay in what they call houses, which has a house parent and about 4 kids in each one of the mini dorms, so like little apartments. But they're obviously very bored out there. They can't go anywhere. And they asked if anyone had any games or puzzles or books or anything they would like to donate, including smelly stuff. We have a shortage of smelly stuff that would help them pass the time and give them something to do while they're sitting in their quarantine lockdown. So if you do have something that you'd like to donate, send me an email, leave it on your front porch, and Chorito and I will be out on Friday, drive around and pick up anything anybody'd like to donate, and then we'll take things out there on Saturday. No?
Grandpa, can we send a check for a monetary thing?
Yeah, we can, and we'll find something that we can buy. We can buy some puzzles for them and some books or something too, just anything to help pass their time.
Will you give me an address that I can send it?
Sure, for everyone, it's a P.O. Box 770.
Can you put it in an email?
I can do that. I can send this all out in a blast email to everyone.
Yeah,
okay.
That would be great.
Keith, what kind of smelly stuff do you want?
Well, I know nobody's traveling right now, but really any smelly stuff, and they were kind of excited. The house parents actually were excited to get that because then it gives the kids, again, just something to do, something different to show up in their house and something they can play with. So any smelly stuff, anything.
But what do you mean with smelly stuff? Like what?
Shampoo, soap, products, anything like that.
Okay, who's typing?
If we send a check, I have friends at the Corvette Club that want to make a donation, and I think it'd be a great idea for you to pick up puzzles and whatever. Should we make the check out to you or Rotary or who?
You can make it out to the Escondido Rotary Foundation.
Okay, and then you'll go out and do your expert shopping.
We got professional shoppers standing by always.
No, probably Amazon.
Chorito.
Yeah, there you go.
I have a question, Keith.
Keith, it's Rick Greenstein. Are the kids at San Pasquale Academy able to attend any classes?
They still have classes going on, yes, but the interesting thing is even though the kids are in their own houses, they can't socialize with the kids in the house right next door. So they are quarantined in their own houses and are taking virtual classrooms. They don't have any get-togethers of any kind. Prom is canceled. Graduation is going to a drive-in type graduation where they're going to let cars on campus, but nobody out of their cars. So they're as locked down as the rest of the country is. So
but why are they in lockdown? They're all together. No, they don't get together with other people from the outdoor.
Well, they're very cautious out there in a lot of different ways. That's what they've decided are their guidelines. And so they've locked everyone down in their own houses. And so they need puzzles or games or anything to help them pass the time. Yeah.
They're not allowed out onto their what they're growing.
Oh, they go out there, but in their groups that are in their house. They keep the house of the 4 students and the house parents together, and that's their group, half a dozen people.
The reason I'm asking you is we are getting vegetables delivered from a farm in Oceanside for a fee, and I wonder if they actually have fruit or vegetables that they could put together and we could pick up and we could pay them. I mean, we could buy that from San Pasquale. I don't know what they're growing, but
well, they've got acres and acres of produce out there, so they have an abundant supply. Bumper crop this year because of all the efforts that were done on Ag Day out there. So it's a very good question. I'll ask them if they're able to donate or sell that excess produce.
Yeah, they could donate to the North County Food Bank.
Right.
That's a
Right.
good idea.
Right. Good.
All right. Good question. Thank you all.
All right.
Now here's Ricky.
Yes, Rick.
Thank you. I hope that everyone got to read the email that I broadcast through DAC-DB yesterday. One of the things that we obviously have been talking about is what our circumstances in the foundation are with regards to trying to lend support through the community. We've talked about a number of things, but one of the things that I obviously have been focused on is what's going on with Palomar Health. And I know that Doug and Wayne have signed in, so they may want to add to some of what I'm talking about. Just for a little background, every day the medical staff gets an email reporting what's going on with COVID-19. And much of this information either comes out slowly or is not really available to the public. It's not, as far as I know, even displayed on the Palomar.org website. Yesterday's report indicated that the 2 hospitals have a total of 15 positive patients, 6 in Poway, 12 in Escondido. Interestingly enough, in spite of the current concerns about skilled nursing facilities, Villa Pomerado has had none.
Nice.
Other numbers that you may wish to know about are that Palomar only has a small handful of people under investigation in their ERs or inpatients. And the other figure that you might want to know about is that since February 7, Palomar Health has tested over 1,500 total patients. And of those 1,500 plus, 1,400 plus were negative and 120 plus were positive.
Palomar Health.
Another thing I have been alluding to has to do with some of the physical impacts on Palomar Health and its professionals and other staff. And Wayne or Doug might want to correct it. But my understanding is that Palomar Health had approximately 50 to 60% activity decline.
I gotta put a little dirt in.
That translates directly to their bottom line, and they are responding like all businesses do and trying to control the variable expenses on a daily basis.
Rotary.
Palomar Health Foundation has reported a significant increase in donation support with some outstanding examples. And some of that information is available on the palomarhealth.org website, and you might be interested in looking at that. Another thing that people may have some confusion about, most people know that there is a field medical station being put together on 11 floors, new hospital campus. And that is a federal or state thing. Palomar is not doing that, they're just providing the space. It's not known whether that will result in the return of some of the people who are furloughed or not. And that quantity of beds will, I think, be as many as 250 beds, quite significant, given the fact that the Palomar and Pomerado censuses are down, and this is in anticipation of potential huge surge. The other thing that you may have seen recently is that Palomar Health has been working with the state to relicense the acute care beds in the downtown campus. Again, also a potential need if there is a huge surge. So the Palomar situation is kind of interesting. San Diego has actually had a pretty good track record so far with the pandemic, and Palomar Health in particular has done an outstanding job in preparing. As I said, some of this comes at the expense of revenue streams for the health system, for the professionals and other staff at the hospitals. And that's why there's been some discussion about how do we help Palomar Health and be a good neighbor. Many of you may not know that the Palomar Health Foundation recently supported the Escondido Rotary Foundation in terms of sponsorship for Coeur Cuisine, and they are on track to fulfill their commitment. One of the things that I would like to see considered is asking Palomar Health Foundation if they would like a return of those monies to help them. But even in spite of that, I would like to see some efforts on the part of the members of our club to enhance the coffers of the Escondido Rotary Foundation, both to add to what we are able to do and some of the things that are dependent upon still to be obtained revenue from auctions, et cetera. So I encourage you to consider making direct donations to the Rotary Foundation so that we can support our community to the extent possible. The other thing that many of you know I have been trying to work on is to help facilitate housing for those professionals who want to distance themselves from their families. So with Mayor Mack and the city staff and Wayne Herron, a list of local hotels who have discounted rates now.
Oh, shite. Sorry.
No problem.
Keep going.
But an interesting thing that I referred to in the broadcast email is a nationwide process underway called RVs for MDs. It's a Facebook page. And so it's matching up people who have recreational vehicles that they are not currently using and donating them for the use of professionals with whom they match up in their area. It has not yet been very active in San Diego, and I'm not sure how to work on that. I hope that Wayne might be able to help with that. That's about all I have to say about this. Doug or Wayne, do you have any comments about Palomar Health?
You've done a real good job of summarizing the issues and just to give a sense of the need for support, the use of personal protective equipment is 4 to 5 times greater than it was, say, at the peak of flu season a year ago. And the cost of securing this has gone from 2 to 10 times the cost of this equipment, say, a year ago. So it's an incredible need.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Palomar Health and the county are doing a great job of trying to stay ahead, and forward planning.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in. This is Wayne. Palomar estimated, and it's just an estimate right now, but they've spent about $2.5 million in expenses related to the virus. And this was all, of course, unbudgeted, unplanned for. And this is in the wake of canceling elective surgeries, which is a significant financial hit on our revenue. So our foundation is working with the community, and I'm proud to share with all of you that in 4 weeks, we've raised about $500,000 from the community. And our foundation had money in reserve, and our board approved to contribute $500,000. So we've contributed to about $1 million to Palomar to help offset that $2 million plus unexpected expense for COVID. So our work right now is we're continuing going to the community for cash. That's really important right now, to Dr. Moyer's points of the cost for the supplies that we need. We've got an incredible response with food from community, donated supplies. So a lot of great activity from the community, but the work is not done by any means. And so any help that we can get from Rotary and elsewhere is absolutely welcome.
Rick, what did we decide to do with the $3,000 that the board approved?
Well, Mike Freed and I are kind of still working on what the total numbers available might be, and whether that would initially
Greenstein
go back to Palomar Health Foundation. I have yet to receive any numbers of individuals who are looking for accommodations that we might help subsidize. That's why I'm thinking more about returning money one way or another to the Palomar Health Foundation.
I have a simple solution if you can receive this.
Yes.
Does it show?
It did.
No, we're seeing the Northern Lights.
Yes.
It's a $1,000 check payable to ERF for COVID-19 relief.
I did the same thing, Mike. Just wrote you a check for $1,000 to the foundation.
I saw that. Thank you.
The hospital.
Outstanding.
We could remind our members that we're saving $100 a month, not spending $20 a week lunch.
For
we're
hamburgers.
all ahead. The $100 should be going.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's great support for the foundation.
Yes, so far, I heard $5,000 that we've already approved to go through the foundation to support Palomar Health. So thank you, Rick, for keeping us apprised of what's happening. It certainly is important to support our local hospital, and as they have supported us as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Before we go to the next slide, there is something that I failed to mention in the member moments, and that is I received an email today from Royce. Royce, do you want to tell the member moment? Maybe
Royce Moore.
Royce Moore, are you on mute?
Should be.
Okay.
Am I on mute now?
No,
there you are.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, just wanted to mention that yesterday, our executive secretary, Ron Smith, had some surgery regarding a problem with cancer, and he had to see a dermatologist, a special dermatologist, and it was a lengthy surgery, but Ron's doing well now.
I thought I had seen him in here already.
No.
No, Ron's not here today. Well, we'll definitely send our regards to him then too.
Right. So keep Ron in your thoughts and in your prayers for a speedy and full recovery. Thanks, Royce.
You betcha.
Okay.
And
Go
to
ahead.
everyone, get your skin checked at least every year.
Yeah. Where's Jay? He should be telling us this stuff here.
He's not talking. He's muted.
Yeah. No, it's true, especially if you are blonde-haired and blue-eyed.
Well, and then Ron worked 10 years as a lifeguard in Pacific Beach.
Yep.
Every year in your birthday suit.
Every year in your birthday suit. What, are you offering to check?
Sure. Are you signing up?
No.
Specializes in women.
Jay, that's your job, aren't you? Aren't you the resident dermatologist in Rotary? Rotary's resident dermatologist.
Yeah, my comment is get dressed. I'll be with you in a minute.
No. Poor Jackie.
We're looking for Rotary programs.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, I think we better move along here. Andy?
So on to our fun song.
Yes, let's go to our fun song.
Ready,
Is that
Jay?
you, Jay? Are you
What?
doing our fun song? Who's doing the fun song this week?
It was Jay's song.
Let's see it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Let me see. No.
So hop along.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If you have to stay home and
phone, then Rotary's the groove to know.
No, right.
Songs and games, change all our names to try to make it better flow.
That's not my key. Jack was doing.
Sorry, it's not your
Feelings don't hide.
Just
Lose your best and get some rest. This nightmare will subside.
Hey.
It's almost painful.
All right.
Jan, do you want to introduce this?
Well, here we go. Laura is going to talk to us about the tax implications of quarantine. So our esteemed CPA, Laura Stees. Laura?
Okay, so you ready to launch it?
I am.
Andrew?
I am.
Okay,
Everyone gets
so
muted.
you'll have about a 10-second delay because I'm not the best at editing video, but give it 10 seconds and it'll start.
Actually, it's only about 2 seconds because I do edit video.
Oh, you do edit video. Perfect. Now I know who else to call on for editing videos.
No, I don't know anything about video.
Perfect.
All right, here we go, folks.
Hi everyone, it's Laura here. It is Sunday night and I am recording this presentation so that it's ready for our meeting on Tuesday. Wow, have we had a crazy couple of weeks here. It's been a little over a month now that we have been in lockdown, and boy, has the world changed during that time. So we're going to talk about the plans and programs that are out there to help you and your businesses with the coronavirus issue. So focusing on our businesses, and this can also be a focus for yourself. The first thing that we had to do was respond to the virus and how we were going to respond to it. We'd never had to do this before, so a lot of us were learning day by day how to respond. But now we're starting to come to the end of it, or the end of this first part of it, and it's going to be time for us to start recovery. So a lot of the new stimulus packages are not only designed to help you respond to the coronavirus epidemic, but also to help you recover from it so that then we can move on to thriving. And that's the goal for all of us. I mean, our economy was screaming before this virus hit us, and we came to a complete stop. So it's going to be time for us to get back on our bikes and thrive again. So let's talk about the different plans that the government has put into place. They've had the CARES Act has been passed, and you're all pretty familiar with talking about the CARES Act, which stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So in the CARES Act, we have corporate and general business tax provisions. We also have some employer-focused provisions, Then for all of you that are retired and those who have retirement plans available, there are a lot of new rules and regulations regarding retirement plans, compensation, and employee benefits. And then let's not forget, we had several tax benefits for individuals as part of the CARES Act. So let's get right into this. The corporate and general business tax provisions. We had some NOL modifications. That's your net operating losses. So the TCJA Act starting in 2018 had a limitation for net operating loss carrybacks. We now are going to have a repeal of the 80% limitation. This is for corporations, a 5-year carryback, and an unlimited carry forward. That means if a business had any losses in 2018, they can carry those back to 2013 if there was income taxes paid in those years and recoup some of the income taxes. There was also some prior year AMT for corporation modifications. The business interest limitation was modified. It was increased to 50% from 30%. There are some technical amendments regarding qualified improvement property. So if any of you have restaurant property or commercial rental property, this could potentially be advantages for you to go back and amend returns and take advantage of that. With corporations, there are new charitable contribution modifications during 2020. They've increased it to 25% of taxable income, up from 10%. On top of that, there were some changes in the treatment of federal loans, loan guarantees, and other investments. And then we got into some industry-specific federal excise taxes. For instance, there's an alcohol excise tax that they have done an exception for when that alcohol is used in hand sanitizer. And then there was also some aviation excise taxes, which had to do with ticketing. So a couple of changes there. So that's the general idea of what they put into place for the corporate tax provisions. And it's primarily tax provisions on the corporate side until we get into some of the other areas, like employer-focused provisions. So employer-focused provisions are designed to help employers keep their employees and to keep them on payroll so that they're not on unemployment. The government really wants to have a focus right now of every company maintaining and retaining as many of their employees as possible, so that when all the stay-at-home orders are lifted and all these businesses can open again, they are going to be able to have the majority of their workforce still in play with them, still engaged with them. So the first one there is the employee retention credit for employers. So this one was done specifically to maintain head count of employees. And if you're maintaining your head count, there is a credit of 50% of wages up to $10,000. So that means it's a $5,000 credit per employee. And this is for any business that was ordered by the government to shut down or suffered any significant decline in business because of coronavirus. The next item is a delay in deposit of payroll taxes. So if a company had payroll taxes and they incur these at any time up to the end of 2020, there will be no penalties or interest, and they get to delay that as long as they pay 50% of it by the end of 2021 and 50% of it by the end of 2022. Now, this is a huge opportunity for companies. As many of you may be aware, payroll taxes are considered trust fund taxes. And when a company does not pay their payroll taxes, anybody who has signing authority or authority to have executed the payment can be personally liable for the payroll taxes. This is not an area that the government has ever played games with in the past or has ever allowed any types of delay of paying these funds into the government. As a matter of fact, the penalties for failure to pay payroll taxes in on time are really quite severe, 20 to 25% for penalty for a 1-day delay in depositing payroll taxes. So on the flip side of this, while this can be a huge advantage to a lot of companies, you really have to be careful with this one because it can create a slippery slope. Like I said, in the past, the penalties have been very extreme on payroll taxes, and the liability, the personal liability to any owner of the business, anyone that controls a checking account, anyone who has any authority to execute payment of payroll taxes can be 100% personally liable. So while this is a big advantage, I also advise anyone using this technique to use it with caution. Then in addition to that, there was the advanced refunding of credits. This was part of the Families First Act, and you heard about this in the very beginning of the shutdown. And this has to do with the qualified sick leave and qualified family leave wages. So employers are required to provide 2 weeks of qualified sick leave for anyone who has been affected by coronavirus. They themselves have coronavirus, a member of their family has it, they're taking care of someone because someone in the family has coronavirus, or in the family leave area, it's because their children were not able to go to school, so they had to be home with their children, so then the family leave wages came into play. So there's a lot of credits that were designed around this to help families, and so that these families can continue to get their paychecks from the companies that they work for, and then the companies can get these credits on their payroll taxes when they submit the payroll taxes. So if you've got a situation like that, you need to work with your payroll service on how to implement that particular program. Okay, then there were a lot of changes in the retirement plans in compensation and employee benefits. So let's talk first about some of the retirement plans. So you have penalty-free early access to retirement fund plans. So if you're under 59 and a half, you normally can take money from your retirement plans if you pay the penalty for taking that. That penalty is 10% on the federal level. They have waived that for up to $100,000 of distributions from your retirement plans, but you have to have been affected by coronavirus. You have to have had a health or financial hardship because of coronavirus. And then you can take these funds into your income over 3 years, or let's say things recover and you recover financially and you can put that money back into your pension plan for up to 3 years. Normally it's a 60-day rollover. You can take money from your pension plan, but you have to return it within 60 days or it becomes taxable income to you. In this particular case, you can roll it over within 3 years. So you can take the income over 3 years, you can roll it over within 3 years. They also allowed increased limits on loans from retirement plans. Typically, the loan cap has been $50,000. You can now take up to a $100,000 loan from a pension plan or up to 100% of the vested benefits. The loan terms were 5 years. They have increased them to 6 years, the loan repayment terms. For all of you that are retired over 70 and a half and have been taking your required minimum distributions, or for those of you who have inherited IRAs, where the person you inherited from was taking required minimum distributions and you elected to continue their RMDs. Your RMDs are suspended for 2020. So any required minimum distribution for 2020 does not have to be taken. They're not going to make you take your money out of the stock market when the stock market's at a low. So this will allow many of the IRAs to recover to the higher rates before you have to take your funds out. Any businesses that have pension plans that they're funding on behalf of the employees, you are getting an extension of your plan funding deadlines. Any company that had, any business that had to pay or had to fund a pension plan in 2020, you now get to delay that funding until January 15th of 21. There was waivers of numerous benefit restrictions within the pension plans. There's a variety of restrictions here. If you've got some issues going on with your benefit restrictions, then reach out to me or reach out to your pension consultant, your third-party administrator, for the rules on those. They're quite extensive and we don't have enough time to talk about them today. In addition, there's an extension so that certain employer payment of student loans can occur. So an employer can pay up to $5,250 of education expenses on behalf of employees on an annual basis. Now, there's quite a few rules for these education assistance programs, like they have to be offered to every single person in the company. You can't offer it to just one person and not offer it to the next person. But if you have an education assistance program and your employees have student loans, those funds can be used to pay student loans up to $5,250 of a student loan, and that is not subject to income taxes. It is excluded from the employee's income taxes. In addition, they also included certain over-the-counter medical products as qualified medical expenses in some of the medical plans, medical benefit plans that are out there. Okay, then we had some tax benefits for individuals, and you all have been hearing about the recovery rebates. The $1,200 per person, $500 for children. There's a lot of news going on the problems with this, and it's going to take a while to sort all of the problems out. I'm surprised that they didn't have more problems than they did. It's still rolling out throughout the month of April. Anybody who is on Social Security and SSI that doesn't file a tax return, those rebates are rolling out through the end of April, and then the IRS is going in and trying to do cleanup on all of the other little problems that came up. As you can imagine, with a country our size, there's no one size fits all, and not everyone has the same issues with their taxes. So what they're doing is taking an approach of covering the majority of the people that they can immediately, and then coming back and dealing with exceptions. There's also some modifications on the limitations on charitable contributions during 2020. This actually pans out well for the Escondido Rotary Foundation. I know that all of us have recently given money to the foundation for Coeur de Cuisine. Well, if you were having any limitations in your charitable deductions because of the AGI limitation of 60%, that is gone. You can give up to 100% of your adjusted gross income and be able to take those charitable contribution deductions in 2020. That means you can give away all of your money. Watch out, Mike's out there and he's ready to take deposits for the foundation, and you know, got to watch out for Vaughn. He's going to be out there looking for more donations for CORE. Okay, so then there were modifications on the limits, on the limitation on the losses for taxpayers other than corporations. So any of you that are sole proprietors partnerships, LLCs, LPs, S corporations. You now have the ability to take any of your net operating losses, any net operating losses that arose, net operating loss that arose in 2018, 2019, and 2020 can go back to the prior 5 years. We are going through all of our clients' returns right now to see if there's anyone who had any kind of suspended losses, limitations on losses, and see where we can take those losses. But this could put money in your pocket today if you are a business that had any losses or an individual that had business losses. So take a look at that if that's your situation. So now they also came out with loans for struggling businesses. You've been hearing a lot about the Paycheck Protection Program. The first round of this program was depleted in 2 weeks, $349 million in 2 weeks. Now the Midwestern states received enough funds to cover 74% of the state's payroll. But California only received enough to cover 24% of payroll costs in California. So there are many governors that are looking at this and going, how did that happen? Well, one of the things that they're looking at is whether they were local and regional banks versus big banks. It has been found that the local and regional banks were able to get the funding in faster because the Paycheck Protection Program was a first come, first served program. So the regional banks and local banks were far more nimble, and they were able to get the programs going much quicker. And then there's also the economic injury disaster loans, and we're referring to these as the EIDL loans. The EIDL loans, you have to apply with the Small Business Administration. Up to $10,000 of the loan may be forgiven. Now, we're not sure if anyone's actually getting this funding. We have not heard of a single case of any one of our clients or any of the businesses that we network with and associate with getting any of this funding. I have been hearing reports that the SBA is overwhelmed with the number of applications, and the SBA was already overwhelmed with the Paycheck Protection Program. So this is one that we're going to have to keep our eyes on and see what happens with this one and if these types of loans are given out. That the $10,000 that may be forgiven, it cannot be used for the same thing as the Paycheck Protection Program. In the Paycheck Protection Program, they can have 2.5 months of payroll. 2.5 months of payroll is how they calculated the amount of the loan that they were giving, and that can be forgiven if it is actually used for payroll, plus 25% of it can be used for other expenses such as rent, mortgage interest, and utilities for contracts that were in place before February 15th. So we're watching these programs very closely. A lot of my clients have already gotten the Paycheck Protection Program. Some of them were right on the edge and didn't get in on the first round. So the good thing is that they are now trying to approve additional funding. It's in Congress right now. The original amount was $349 billion. It's potentially being increased to $600 billion. So we're hoping that the rest of our clients who are already queued up with banks are going to get in as soon as the next round is opened up. The problem is that if you aren't already queued up with a bank, you may have a hard time getting in. And we're also hearing a lot of complaints of people with the large banks don't even know if they're in the queue because they're not getting any feedback from the banks. So it's an issue, it's a problem, and they think that's what our problem is here in California, that there's a lot of larger banks. And so it was not a situation where they were very responsive to the people who put in the applications. Okay, so remember, we're talking about recovery and then thriving. So we need to start getting ready for business to open. In the first 100 days, what are you going to do during your first 100 days? It's time for businesses to put your recovery plan in place, for individuals to plan their recovery budgets. And your back burner, what have you had on your back burner that this is the time, this is an opportunity for you to advance those items? New capabilities, new resources, new opportunities. So I'm going to give you a little exercise that I'm happen to be using with a lot of my cohorts in Strategic Coach, and and this is called the back burner breakthrough. First of all, sit down and brainstorm. What kinds of ideas have you had about new capabilities, resources, and opportunities that you had put on the back burner to develop sometime in the future when you had time on your hands? Well, this is the time you have time on your hands. So go back and look at those and look at all of those things you had on the back burner. And then let's move some of them to the front. Take 3 of your back burner improvements that you've decided to implement right away. Then assign your whys and whens. Why is it right away? Why is right now the right time to make these improvements? And set deadlines for these improvements. And then you need to assign your who's. Just because it's your idea does not mean that you have to do it. You do not have to be the who that's doing the how. So look to the other who's. Who are the other people that have unique abilities around the back burner improvement that you want to implement? See how you can stimulate this to go a little faster. This is a tremendous opportunity for everyone right now. I know it's been a hard time, but hard times also open up avenues to good times. And so if you've got some stuff on the back burner, do this exercise and bring some of that stuff up to the front and see what you can do. So if you have any questions, while this is a recording, I will be available for questions on our Zoom meeting after this. And by the way, on my blog, we're constantly posting about the stimulus packages and changes that are going on, things that are happening within it. So go to blog.steeswalker.com and sign up to receive my blog if you're not getting it already. I've had a great time sharing all of this with you guys today. And if you ever have any questions, never hesitate to call me. Thanks for your time. Hi everyone, it's Laura here. It is Sunday night and I am recording this presentation.
Whoa. Great job, Laura. Thank you so much. That was excellent. Very thorough. Does anybody have questions for Laura?
Rick Greenstein has a question.
Yeah, Rick.
With the suspension of the required minimum distribution for 2020, will that cause the 2020 distribution amount to be piggybacked onto the 2021?
No, it will not. Required minimum distributions are calculated on an annual basis based on the life expectancy and the account balance at the end of the year, the end of that previous year. So it will not, you will not be required to take a double distribution in 2021.
Thank you.
Great. Any other question?
Yes, I have a question, Laura.
Very nicely done, Laura.
Amy Wondolowski. On the first
Oh,
part.
here's Amy, Nancy.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Amy. Go ahead.
That you can get a repeal for the 80% limitation, 5-year carryback unlimited. What was the remainder of that? I failed to jot that down.
So that was the corporate net operating losses. If you had a net operating loss, you can carry it back for 5 years. There has been a limitation on the net operating loss deduction since TCJA started in 2018.
Does that apply to individuals?
The individuals did not have the limitation that corporations had. However, the individuals were limited to a 2-year carryback. It is now 5 years, a 5-year carryback and an unlimited carry forward. We are expecting a lot of companies to have losses in 2020. That means they'll be able to carry those losses back to 2015 and potentially recuperate income taxes that they paid in the years when the economy was doing really well.
And how do I sign up for that? Do I connect personally with you?
Yes, that's something that a tax preparer would prepare the forms for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just need a tax person to do that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else? Laura, that was a great, great program. Thank you so much. Yay.
Thank you.
All right. Next slide, I think, is our thank you, everybody, for joining the meeting. And thought for the week. Maya Angelou always had beautiful things to say. Try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud. We'll see each other next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice job.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.